Morning, Mashi.
Good evening, Dennis.
How's it going?
Really, really well. You know what's funny is every time you go to record the Zoom thing, it's like someone's recording the meeting, leave meeting, got it. And I hit leave meeting once, right?
I
And
remember.
now
I got it on
every
tape.
time, every time I'm like, don't hit the wrong one, Mosh. I'm like, it's funny how you stub your toe that one time. And then ever since after that, sometimes she's like, don't stub your toe here.
Well, it's like sitting on a plane and you're sitting in the exit row and you see the big thing that says like a big red lever that says do not pull. And you're like, well, hang on. Hold on.
But what happens? There was a Korean flight, I think, where someone did to get some fresh air. That did not go well.
That's a level
Nobody
of short-sightedness. I'm not ready to accept in the world.
You gotta think like if it's your first flight, maybe it's like rolling down the window in a car. Spoilers chat. Spoilers chat. Jeez, I'm streaming too much.
It's streaming too much, dude.
Spoilers, everyone. It ain't like rolling the window down in a car. All right, today it's Secret Invasion, which is that new Marvel series. Yes. Marvel's getting kind of gritty with this stuff. Have you?
It's dark. I've not watched an episode of it yet, but no, it is grim. They caught a lot of flack because the intro is made with AI, which is thematically fine, makes sense, but people are like, ooh, don't know about replay. I saw another tweet that someone was like, why is like artistry and painting and writing the tools we're using, the jobs we're getting robots to replace us in, not like the backbreaking hard labor automation industrial revolution style stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting that we as humans, right, our competitive advantage is our intelligence and probably, our ability to produce music and produce art and do those things. And all of a sudden, and let's be honest, technology by and large has been developed to do the backbreaking work.
Yes.
That we have. But now as we develop further into computer technology, we're starting to make it more and more human. We're making our own image. I wonder if that was God's temptation when creating us, but if that's the creation story you believe.
Big question. I assume that's not the quote from Secret Invasion.
That is not the quote. That's not a quote. That is my quote. I don't know. All right, folks, Secret Invasion. Here we go. All we can, and I want you to think about this in terms of a lot of how we've discussed identity. And we've had this whole discussion about Odysseus on the mast and things like that. All we can turn to are the people who we care about. But what if those people aren't who we thought they were? What if the ones closest to us, the ones we've trusted our whole lives, were someone else entirely?
And well, I mean, you're thinking in terms of like someone is actually not the person you expected them to be from like an ideological or emotional sense, not an alien scroll pretending to be them through like
tomato.
Okay.
I mean, because
I mean, this thing is interesting. It's something you run into a lot. I think it happens a lot as a I think it affects men more, honestly. As you grow up and as you sort of move out of being a teenager into being a young adult, you start to realize that some of your friends that you grew up with, because you kind of get forged together just by proximity, by growing up on the same street and going to the same school. You don't choose them based on their virtues as people or anything like that. And I don't know if you experienced this, but I've grown up with people and been like, man, some of my friends are assholes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
How did that happen?
And I mean, you encounter that. Any extreme circumstance can do that. Traveling the world, working those shows, you got thrown into with a ragtag bunch of people, and you go through it. Look, you go through enough negative experiences. With all due respect to school, it's not that negative, but it's not what you want to do as a child. And you have that proximity. You're going to develop a bond of some kind. And one of the things that was a shocker for me, for instance, funny that we opened with this whole idea of God, is some of my friends Garrett and Graham, brothers I grew up with, very devout Christians, Methodist. And of course I was raised Buddhist. And there was a weird moment where it's like, wait, you're not Christian? I was like, wait, you guys are Christian? And it was just we have this way of imprinting ourselves on, we have so much in common. We think maybe we have everything in common when we're younger. Now as adults, we still kind of do that, but it's not as pervasive as it once was. What I want to suggest to you, though,
for kids, for people in your young adult as well, when you're figuring out who you are as a person, right? And when you've been with the same people growing up, it's not easy to see those small divergences early until you look at them years later, and you guys have grown far apart in your beliefs on something.
And what does this mean? Like, what if the ones close to us, the ones we've trusted our whole lives, were someone else entirely? Are they someone else entirely? Did you just not know this about them?
I think
Did you
you
just
had
make
the,
an
I think you
assumption
had the
about
wrong
them?
impression. Yeah, they've always
Yeah.
been the same person.
Yep.
Growth notwithstanding, the mismatch is in your assessment of them, and sometimes it's naivety. Sometimes you want to see good in people. I have conflict with Nikki a lot because Nikki is very, very keen to see the best in people at all possible times, and I'm much more cynical than she is. And her argument there is that she wants to live in a world where everyone can be and has the hope to be the best version of themselves. And she accepts that gets her hurt more often. That's a trade she's willing to make.
You know, it's so funny. I'm in a similar situation with Claire because she's the same way. And what I've learned is I aspire to see the world that way. I want to see the world the way the Nickies and the Claires of the world see it. I think it's a much better, happier way to see things. And to be honest, I think it's healthier. I don't think being a cynic, is healthy. What I find fascinating about this secret invasion quote, though, is the whole crux of this series is this terror that the people around us aren't who we think they are. And it's like, yeah, I just think that's true. We decide who the people around us are. We really do. We have images of them in our minds and we hold on to them. How many times have we done things, have people around us done things and you go, wait, that doesn't sound like Dennis at all.
Yeah.
What? No,
what
no
you're saying
way.
Is that doesn't sound like the Dennis or the Mashi that I have in my head. Right. And the Mashi that exists behind closed doors off this call when he's alone with Claire, when you're alone with your family, or especially when you're alone with just you in bed at night, right? In the 2 a.m. you wake up. That Mashi that's probably the closest to real Mashi there is. And you get into this feedback loop where I'm very guilty of this. I'm like, if I behave this way around Mashi responds well to it. So I lean into those parts of my behavior that I find Mashi responds well to. And that becomes more and more the version of Dennis that you see. And that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And sometimes it just builds forever, and that's fine. But sometimes I have to do something, or I do something, or I act in some way that is contravening to that. And that's when you get that. I didn't think Dennis was, I didn't think Dennis drank red wine. That's not like him at all. You know what I mean? Like,
I didn't realize Dennis was vacationing in Alaska to club baby seals all this time.
Yeah, but I just didn't talk to you about it because I didn't think you were fun.
Yeah, I thought he was fishing the whole time.
Yeah.
No, it's a weird reminder. And of course, in this case with the secret invasion, it's like this whole like Skrull actual aliens invading. But I just think it's an upfront representation of something that a lot of us, and I dare say all of us are living the whole time. Like I don't mean to suggest that there are Skrulls around you, alien shapeshifters around you, but the idea that everyone around us is a construct of our own mind, how we feel, what I identify as Dennis, what do I identify as Claire, what do I identify as Nikki, all those things are stories and images in my mind. I like to think they're accurate. And in fact, I believe those stories because I do feel in my heart that they're accurate. But the fact is, there are parts to all of us that are alien, even to ourselves, much less those that are closest to us. What is an important reminder for me in this quote is, what if that's true? What if they're not the person you thought they were? What if they are totally different? What if there are sides to them that are massively different than you've ever witnessed? And maybe there are things you will never see about them.
Certainly. I think being upset by that or scared by that is lending more weight to the facsimile you have of this person rather than the actual person themselves. And I think that's unfair. It's almost egotistical of you. It's like, well, the Mashi I wrote is the real Mashi. Yeah. I don't know who this asshole is. Like, that's
exactly. And I mean, it's this classic thing where it's like, no, Dennis, I'm here banging on your door at 6 a.m. because you said you wanted to work out. You said you wanted to get in better shape. So get out of bed. I'm tired and hungover. I don't care, Dennis. I'm holding you accountable because I know this is what you want. This is what you really want.
This isn't you, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, when you have that cigarette in your hand and I slap it out of your hand, I'm doing this for your own good.
What I mentioned, and we can, if we deobfuscate a little by like removing aliens from it, but like you have friends who do horror. Like, have you ever had a friend, for example, who's like a bad partner? Like you have a close male friend and they're a bad boyfriend, and that's hard because you're like, well, this isn't my role. This isn't a side of this person that I'm super invested in. but I feel like I have a little bit of a responsibility, or it's not male exclusive, but I grew up with that. So, but like, it's no different if you're like, if you have a female friend and they're a bad girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or sister or whatever. And it's hard when people have all these different facets of their lives. And it's weird when they have a part of it in which they behave in a way that you think is objectionable or it doesn't fit with the rest of them, but it's not the part that you directly interact with. And you have to make a decision then whether you want to call them up on it and fight them on it, or whether you pick your battles and have that not be the thing that you worry about. And it's a real case by case basis. I think it's hard to give blanket advice on that.
I would say don't call them up on it because that's not your place. But if you're close friends, I think you'd say like, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. You're not calling someone up and say, hey man, I don't appreciate the way you talk to your wife. I don't appreciate the way you talk to Nikki. You're not showing her enough respect. That's not okay with me. Okay, there's a lot of judgment there.
You don't know the whole story. You don't have the full. You're right.
And it's not your business. Like, I think telling someone how they talk to their partner is not okay, even if you believe it's not okay. Guess what? That's not okay. That's not your place. What I think is okay is saying, hey, Dennis, I just got to be real with you, man. I get really uncomfortable when you talk to Nikki that way. And that's your relationship. But I just want you to know
that's how I feel.
Yeah. Uncomfortable. And I'm not even making it a you thing. That's a me thing. Like I get, one of the things I have found with my upbringing, Claire and her family, they do like there's holidays at least once a month to get together with, right?
Uh-huh.
Her parents are older and her mom wants to cook everything. Okay. Her mom, they like hosting. I can't deal with, like, I'm always, hey, do we need help? And she'll let me help. I think she realized something in me. But then when it's time to clear up, I just do all the clearing up. Mm-hmm. And like, no, sit down. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here. And I told Claire, I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I can't watch her parents pick up all the damn dishes. It's just not in me. And it actually bothers me. I'm not even trying to like make a good impression. I just can't sit there and watch do it, and it drives me crazy. On the other hand, if other people aren't doing it, I don't care. You know what I mean?
It's a you thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very much, and I think there's other people who are like, well, Dennis, why aren't you cleaning up? What's going on there? And that's when you're making it more than a you thing. A lot of things about us are you things. There are me things, and I think recognizing that extends beyond just the kind of like, we all have picadillos. And mm-hmm. This extends beyond the picadillos of just, wanting to have, Devonshire cream under your jam. That's not what we're talking about here. The people around us, the people in our lives, and even our own construct of who we are, those are just mental images we have. And I will say this, before you can go around telling people, no, man, this is who you are. Why are you acting this way? You're not being you. Clean up your own house first. Make sure you know who you are, because that's a never-ending struggle and dialogue as well.
The only person you have a complete picture of is yourself.
And right? and I mean, do you know how hard you got to fight for that?
Dude, I know.
You know how hard you got to like really figure that part out, we were having a whole, Claire and I had this whole discussion about whether I objectify women. I got to finish that discussion, but to what degree I do. I think that there's definitely part of me that does, you know what I mean? But I think it's those things that we have to dive into in ourselves. So we think like, how much of it is this a problem? How much of this am I doing? Those kinds of things. I think that are the serious discussions we need to be having on a regular basis. She doesn't think I'm sexist or anything like that. It was a comment that she made, and I was like, no, it's a good comment, especially when I'm talking about female wrestlers. You know what I mean? I'm on a stream, I'm like, oh yeah, Trish Stratus, she's aged really well. It's like, come on, what kind of comment is that, dude?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like let's not get crazy with it here. But it fascinates me when I came across this talking about the secret invasion and this whole idea that the people around us aren't who we think they are.
Good friends can be bad people. It's hard.
But at the heart of it, bad people can be good friends. It goes both ways. And what really strikes me about it is this idea that the people around us aren't who we are. Ooh, that's terrifying. It's like, that's reality. It's not scary. It's the truth. And We tell ourselves stories that make it palatable to us. And I think that's okay. I don't want to be like, hey, and everybody go out there and challenge that and don't fall for that. No, but accept that. Understand it. Go with it. That is part of that human defense mechanism of being social, of being a creature in society. But understand what that is. I don't think it's unhealthy either. I think that's what we need to do to survive. But understand that is what it is. And don't be afraid of it. Embrace it is all I'm trying to say.
Well, Mashi, I hope you go out into your life today and maybe take a closer look at your friends around you and a still closer look at yourself before you go
and just
firing judgments off.
And make sure if there are scrolls that they're the good kind, not the bad kind, right? Like that's the real lesson.
That's the real kind.
There you go. Have a great evening, Dennis.
Have a good morning.